Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're going to set up SwiftLint in our Xcode project. If you just Google SwiftLint, you will find the repo. I will also put a link in the description below. SwiftLint is a public repo. It is used by most of the Swift community at this point, and is simply a tool to enforce Swift style and conventions. So if you've never used any sort of linter before, it is basically just a bunch of extra rules that run on the compiler that make sure that we are writing our code in a clean way. So basically, on top of the normal errors that we get with our compiler, SwiftLint is going to also run and give us a bunch of extra warnings. So for example, here, there's a colon violation. So we can see here in this code, there's a space before the colon, where normally we would put the colon and then a space. So the default compiler in Xcode is not going to tell us that that is a problem or give us any sort of warning, but SwiftLint is going to have an extra check on top that's going to warn us anytime we make mistakes like this. If you guys check out this repo, you can see some public style guides, and there's a bunch of rules that come baked into the default version of SwiftLint. And we're going to basically use the default version, and we're going to just tweak 2 or 3 custom rules on top of that. So if we come down here, there should be some information on how to use it. We actually do not want to use a Swift package manager for this. I think this is generally the wrong approach for most projects. What we want to do is actually have a script in our Xcode project that is going to run it with the compiler. So let's come down here and we're going to install SwiftLint to our computer through Homebrew. So firstly, you're going to need Homebrew if you don't have that already. If you go and Google Homebrew, which I'll also put a link below, you will come to this website. Homebrew is sort of like Swift Package Manager, but for your entire computer, and it will install packages to your home computer, so not Xcode or Swift specific. This is the terminal command that you can run to install Homebrew. If you get stuck here, ChatGPT is really good. Homebrew is like used across all of the software industry uses Homebrew, so there's lots of tutorials out there on how to install it. I'm going to open up my terminal here, and firstly I'm going to make sure that I have Homebrew. So you might already have it on your computer. We can type in brew with 2 dashes and a version just to see what version of Homebrew you're on. I'm on 4.3.23. I think that is the correct version. I think we can call brew update to look for a more recent version, which looks like I actually have an update here. So I'll let this run quickly, and there we go, brew updated. I'll make this bigger for you guys. I'm also going to run SwiftLint -- version to make sure that I have SwiftLint, and then I will call SwiftLint update to see if there's an updated version of that as well. And there's not an updated version of SwiftLint. So if you need to install Homebrew, you should be able to just run this command and it should work. And then if you need to install SwiftLint, you run brew install SwiftLint, and now you have SwiftLint on your computer. So now SwiftLint should be on your computer, but it's not yet in our Xcode project. And in order to actually get it to run in our Xcode project, if we open up Xcode, we're going to add a script. So let's go to the project navigator here, and let's go to our build settings, or build phases, sorry. Let's click the plus here and run new script phase. So this new script here, this is basically going to run before the code in our project actually runs. So every time we click build, or every time the compiler executes, it's first going to run through all of these. It's going to run this script, and then it's going to run all the code in our project. So this will happen right before the code in our project executes. All right, and then in here, we are going to paste a script. And attached to the video description here, I have put the script that we're going to use. So you guys can just copy and paste that script into here, as I will do. I'm going to get rid of some of these extra spaces that just came from the copying and pasting. This script, so just to talk about the script really quick, if we go back to the repo of SwiftLint and you scroll down, there actually is a Xcode run script build phase, and they already give us this code. The code that we're using is very, very similar. You'll notice, let me put these side by side. The bottom part is basically the exact same, except we added this part. This I worked with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is really good at writing these scripts. Basically just for the Swift UI previews, we want to change the path slightly. If we use the default script the previews are going to break. So this is just to support the SwiftUI previews. And it's basically like if there is a SwiftLint available, then run SwiftLint. Else, echo is sort of like a print command. Then it will echo and tell us that SwiftLint was not installed. You'll notice that the version in the docs just has then run SwiftLint, where ours has run SwiftLint-fix. This is optional, the extra fix part. It basically allows SwiftLint to automatically fix things if it can. Some developers like this, some don't. I generally think that if we're starting a new project, we should just keep it as fix. So if there's some warning where it can automatically fix it, it will just automatically change our code rather than asking us, showing us a warning, and we need to change it ourselves. So honestly, it's like super convenient that they even have that in there. And that's the entire script. And I'm going to actually uncheck based on dependency analysis. So currently, if this is checked, this script, so the SwiftLint, would skip in incremental builds, but I want to run every single time that it does build. So let's just uncheck that, force the script to run in all builds. I also don't think that we need to show the environment variables in the build log, so I will uncheck this as well. And that's our script. I'm going to Command-Shift-K to clean the project. And let's just jump into our project. Let's open up the navigator and go to the content view here. Let's just get this working. And let's see if SwiftLint is actually working. And I am getting some errors here. SwiftLint errors, unable to read this. If I look at the docs of SwiftLint one more time, as of Xcode 15, it says that they made a change. The default value of this is yes, and we need to make that, I think, no. So enable user script sandboxing. Let's come into our project. Let's go to the project navigator. Let's go to build settings. Let's type in script and user script sandboxing. Let's change that to no, as it said. Command-Shift-K to clean. Let's go back to our content view. Let's reload it and let's see if it worked. I know it can be a little frustrating the first time you set up SwiftLint, especially if you're running into errors. Ask ChatGPT or ask other Swift developers is a very common tool. But now that this is actually building with that script in place, I'm pretty sure that it is all connected and working. When I click this warning, we can already see two warnings that are coming through due to SwiftLint. So if I look at this first warning here, this warning says line length violation. The line should be 120 characters or less, and it's currently 182. So this is one example of the Swift compiler would not tell us that this is a problem and would not have a problem with this. But SwiftLint rules say that lines should have less than 120 characters. We can see another one down here where, let's see, it says static over final class violation. Prefer static over class. So here we could change this to static, and then I think it would stop yelling at us. It's Command-Shift-K. Cool. And then let's address that one other warning that we haven't fixed yet, which we're actually not going to address. So if we come back to the SwiftLint repo quickly, I think we can actually look for the rules file, and we will see there are a ton of SwiftLint rules that come automatically by default. These are all the rules. Function body length, how long a body of a SwiftUI view can be, how many parameters you could have in a function. Line length, this is the one that is in question right now. So we can see here that the identifier is line length, just like we see here. And we can see that it gives us a warning at 120, and it would give us an error at 200. So this will still compile, even though it's giving us a warning. But if we make this super long, obviously, it'll then turn into an error like this. So there's a lot of rules here. I don't think that you need to really go and read them all or learn them all. But one thing I do want to talk about is that we have the ability to overwrite rules. So I think a lot of engineers generally kind of stick with the default rules, but some of these rules, like this line limit rule, I actually think 120 characters is incredibly short, and I don't have a problem with something like this where the line gets much longer. So what we're going to do is customize a couple rules really quickly. Some people are going to argue this is maybe a bad practice, but we're going to run with it for now. It's also cool to just see how we can do this. So I'm going to let's right click our project navigator and show in Finder. So at the root of our project here, alongside, this is our project with all of our source files in it. There's a Git folder, Git that has all of our Git data. We also want to create another file here that has the overrides for SwiftLint. It needs to be specifically here. It cannot be inside the project folder. So let's go and do that. We're going to do that through the terminal. So let's do this through the terminal quickly. Firstly, I'm going to change directory to get into where our project files are. So I'm going to click and drag our AI chat course folder into the terminal, change directory to our project, click enter. But this is actually going to be this folder here inside this folder, and I want to navigate backwards into the parent folder. So let's go cd ... to go backwards up one level. And now that we're in this parent folder here, let's create this file. We're going to call touch.swiftlint.yml. This is touches to create the file, and then this is the exact name that we need, .swiftlint.yml. Click enter, and we should see it pop in right here. Once we have it here, I can actually just open it with a text editor. So I'm going to actually right click it and open with, and let's open it up with Xcode actually. And we can see that it is a blank file. And then in here, we're just going to paste in our overrides. I will also paste these in the video description below, so you guys can just copy and paste them. These are just, in addition to all the default rules, these are the overrides for the rules. So our line length, we're going to move it to 300 rather than the 120 that it says right now. And then type body length, so how long the body in a SwiftUI view can be. I'm moving it to 500 lines, and then how many lines of code we could have in a single file. I'm moving it to 750. Just because as we're going to build, some of our files are going to be bigger than others, and I don't want to deal with a bunch of annoying warnings. Let's go ahead and save that with Command S to save that down. I'm going to Command S a bunch of times, make sure it saves. I'll close it. And while we're here, let's just right click and open it one more time just to make sure that it did in fact save. And now let's come into our project, Command Shift K, and let's go ahead and build, and that warning should possibly, yes, it went away. All right, so now our SwiftLint is officially running, and it's going to run anytime that we compile the app, whether we're building it to a preview, a SwiftUI preview, or we are running it to a simulator. That is automatically going to run. And just to remind you guys, we did include the -- fix in that run script. So for example, in build phases here, we have the -- fix. So allowing SwiftLint to automatically fix things that it can automatically fix. So just to give you guys one quick example of that in practice, you can imagine that maybe we clicked enter here and we added an extra line. And if you actually use the arrows, you'll see that there's actually a bunch of spaces that Xcode automatically adds when you add a line here. This is actually extra space. So I can actually go ahead and delete this, and I can actually go ahead and delete these extra spaces. So now if I click on this line, there's no extra spaces here. But the default in Xcode is to give you these extra spaces because it thinks you're going to type there. So there's these extra spaces, and that's something that SwiftLint is actually going to automatically take out for us, just making our files a little more optimal. So if I click enter here, the spaces are there. If I go and I build the app, let's build it real quick to the simulator, and then I click back on this line here, you'll notice the space automatically disappeared. And that's because the SwiftLint saw that it could automatically fix this for us, didn't even ask us, and just went ahead and made that change. A little bit of code optimization before we even started coding. All right, a lot of learning for SwiftLint here, but now we are set up and we can use this for the rest of this course. And let's end this video by just committing these changes. So I'm going to Option Command C. Let's go ahead and make this a feature, and we'll say add SwiftLint. Let's stage all of these files. I can actually see my .swiftlint file popping in here. And then let's go ahead and commit that and push that up to our parent repo. All right, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.